Welcome back to DC Smoke Free Reacts. I'm Mitchell, Public Health Tobacco Prevention Coordinator. And today we're going to do another React episode. And this is all about TikToks. Let's get into it.
So I started vaping when I was in high school. I was way too young. If you look at me now, I'm 21 years old and I still look like a child. I wish more than anything that those adults would have asked for my ID rather than just selling to me because I was young and dumb. Over the last several months, I've noticed like shortness of breath, rapid heartbeats, nausea all the time. And recently I've started coughing up blood and like little specks. So your lungs can be permanently damaged from vaping after only 3 days. Mind you, I'm 5 to 6 years in. So there's something that's typically put in flavored vapes that cause popcorn lungs.
Yeah, so what's interesting is before I worked in public health, I actually worked at a small federally qualified health center clinic in a pediatric office. And we actually had a patient, took care of a patient with something called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is really just the fancy medical term for popcorn lung. And, you know, it's not a fun disease. It's nothing that anybody wants or wishes upon them. And so if we can prevent it, all of the better. And so diacetyl is found in a lot of these vapes. And what's, again, interesting about diacetyl is it's responsible for that buttery flavor in popcorn, like that popcorn buttery flavor. That's what it's responsible for. And in fact, they found this out because there was a microwave popcorn factory where they're producing diacetyl, and it got aerosolized, and a lot of people ended up getting popcorn lung. So that's how the term was coined. There's diacetyl in these vapes. And so getting popcorn lung is a concern.
In your little airways, that causes your breathing to get worse and worse until you just can't breathe anymore. I've heard a lot that smoking cigarettes is worse for you, but I'm going to disagree with that. They are both equally bad, can cause cancer, and honestly, vaping causes permanent, undoable damage. Typically, if you're smoking cigarettes, you quit, your lungs have time to fully heal. The only problem is that you still have the chance of getting cancer just because you've been smoking.
The big question is vaping safer than smoking cigarettes? There's nuance here. The question is vaping better than smoking? Well, for who? And for what reasons? And what are they doing? If you ask me, is vaping safer than smoking cigarettes for a student who has never used nicotine products in their entire life? Well, the answer is absolutely not, right? Is vaping safer? No, vaping is not safer. There is no safe level of nicotine. There's no safe vaping or tobacco product out there, or even there's no safe tobacco-free product, which we talk about a lot in this channel. So for who? If you're talking about a long-term cigarette smoker who then decides to switch to vaping with the idea of they're going to taper down, right? They're going to go from 2 milligrams to 1 milligram of nicotine to half milligram to 0 milligrams of nicotine, then that would be a safer alternative. That would be a path to smoking cessation. That'd be a path to quitting smoking. What we saw is these vapes are introduced. We're seeing fancy flavors, bubblegum, mint, coffee, citrus, fruit. They're all available. We're seeing packaging that's attractive to kids. And what we're seeing is an entire generation of students who said, you know, we're sick with cigarettes. Cigarettes are gross and nasty, and this isn't something that I want to use or do or put it into my body, are now using vapes, using tobacco products, experimenting with them because they're accessible, they're flavorful, because they look fun, because their friends are using them, because they have parents or family members using these things.
Days and you can already cause permanent damage to your lungs. Again, this is informational. I started vaping because I thought it was cool because I was hanging out with older kids who were vaping. It is not cool. That first hit I took, I got a buzz, and then I liked it. I wanted more of it.
So it sounds like for her nicotine addiction was quite quick. She tried this once, maybe a couple of times, and she liked it. It made her feel good. And as you continue to use nicotine, as you continue to vape, addiction becomes more and more prevalent, becomes easier and easier to use these products, and much harder to quit. And so the reality is why I started in the first place, because I run these quick classes. If I have 100 people come through this quick class, I am lucky if I can get between 3 and 5 of them to quit. So my success rate is about 3 to 5%, which means that about 95% of people who go through my class are unsuccessful in quitting. And that just goes to show how addictive nicotine is. I mean, it really is one of the most addictive drugs in the world.
Person without having it in my hand. It's more like a stress thing at this point and also a habit. I'm literally driving down the road and constantly have it in my hand. The second I lose it, I freak out. Also, after I started vaping, I noticed that I wasn't as hungry, so I was starting to lose a little bit of weight. Over the next several years, until I was almost 21, I had an eating disorder on and off. I would use nicotine and coffee in place of meals.
So we do see people using it to avoid eating or to feel more full.
For me to like the way I was losing weight 5 to 6 years in, and it has literally been hell trying to quit. I have tried several times and it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
So every time I've hit my vape, I literally feel disgusted with myself, but I cannot quit. I'm not saying it's impossible for everyone, but it is so much easier to just never touch it than to have to try to get off of it.
It's so much easier to just not touch this stuff than to try to get off of it. And again, we talked about my quit classes. I'm lucky and successful if I can get 5% of people to quit.
Well, sort of, kind of. It depends. Let's get into it. So yes, lung injury from vaping can occur, but lots of things can occur from vaping. And to answer that question, it kind of depends on what exactly happened and how much you're smoking.
So again, I love this. It's the question is, will my lungs be damaged? And again, it's not a yes or no. It's more nuanced than that. How much have you smoked? What have you smoked? Was it cannabis? Was it nicotine? Have you been exposed to other chemicals? What brand were you using, right? Which vaping device is better for you? One came from China and had a lot of really bad toxic parts from it. The other vape, still bad for you, but had less toxic parts. And so when you compare things, it's like, what were you using? How long were you using it for? In fact, when we do lung cancer screening, there's a screen for it, especially for cigarette smokers. They call it something called a 20-pack year. And so if you fit in that description of a 20-pack year, you would be recommended for low-dose CT screening, which means you go into a CT scan, it's a low-dose radiation, it's not the full amount you might normally get, it's a much lower amount, and you would be recommended to check for lung cancer. Why? Because you smoked to this threshold where your chances of getting lung cancer are quite high, or higher than they might otherwise be. And so it's beneficial to go ahead and get this yearly screening to make sure that you don't have lung cancer. And if you do have lung cancer and we catch it early, that's fabulous news. That means it's treatable. There's a lot of options for you. We know that when you get to later stage cancers, there's still treatment options out there that are available, but we know we would love to catch it early and be as successful as we possibly can. If you haven't seen our memes, check out our meme channel right here.